Hi, friends. It's Reverend Laurie with Unity of Ocala. And forgive the way I look. I still haven't been to the hair salon. I just got off my yoga mat, which is currently on my deck by my container gardens, and it was sprinkling a little bit. So I'm a little weathered, but feeling refreshed and wonderful. So I wanted to put out a bright note early this morning to just connect with you and say hello and how are you. I'm constantly getting questions by folks, friends, and other ministers and congregants about what's really going on here. We're forced inside to kind of step away from the world. And now we're encouraged to go outside and get some fresh air, but keep our distances. And I'd love to react, and I do react, with the common spiritual comebacks. If you've been journeying the spiritual life like many of you have, as long as I have, and I try and I devote my life to my spiritual practices and my teachings for decades. I've studied many masters and many paths, and I diligently and as authentically as possible search for those answers and do the spiritual work so that I can be of a benefit to others. But I can't really answer those deep, deep questions of the unknowing. I can trust on my spiritual understanding that has served me very, very well up to this point. But none of us really know what's behind the veil, what is under the seeds giving rise. We can speculate. We can repeat the teachings of our masters. We can, as the Taoist and Buddhist recommend, detach from the situation. I don't know if that's an answer. I think it's more of a tool. I have found, however, that leaning on my most effective spiritual teachings have helped me personally through more challenges than I ever thought I would have. And that's okay, because the brightest light I have found comes at our darkest times. And so I can only answer from my own experience and my own understanding. I do believe in what the Buddhists and the Taoists and the Hindu mystics and unity teachers talk about. I believe God is in and through all things. And I believe that with God, all things are possible. And I believe I am a direct force, an energetic force of God and God's love and God's light. So the only thing I can do at times when we don't know what to do, when our leaders are failing us globally, when we feel alone and lost, we're trying to rely on experts and doing the best things for our elders, for our children, for our families, for our neighbors, for all people and all creatures. The only way I can get answers is to become still and stay in the present. And that's really difficult for people, especially those of us whose minds are busy, whose days are busy. But what I found is if we can become quiet and begin to empty, do you know what I mean? I mean, we spend lifetimes filling ourselves with experience, with knowledge, with learning, with understanding, with figuring things out, with seeing and hearing and tasting new, and taking it all in. Perhaps we're so full at times, I know I am, that I have to empty so that I can be filled. And it's difficult to stay in the present. And I think that is the question I get asked the most. How can I stay in the present? I can't seem to meditate because my mind just wanders or I fall asleep. I can't seem to become still. I can't seem to focus on one thing at a time. Well, you can try what I try. It is the gift of gratitude. It really comes back to those simple practices. But I found even this morning, when I first sat on my yoga mat and all my muscles were achy and sore from my fingers to my toes, and I just wanted to start stretching and kneading and bending, and And I thought, I'm just going to be quiet for a minute, and I'm just going to empty first. Before I take anything in, even deep breaths, before I begin to release all of that, I just want to empty. And I found the best way to really be present is to look at what is right in front of me. My cat was right in front of me, Captain. He's a terrible kitty. I hate to say that because he's just all cat, or really half mountain lion, half cat. He was a stray and in deep need of rescue. My husband's uncle found him at his RV lot. He has this, or had this big RV lot, and this mother kitty apparently had this kitten. I don't know where the rest were, if there were any, but this little kitten lost his mama before he was ready to be weaned. He tried to chew at the milk we were giving him. We finally found some bread that we could soak with the milk, and we got him eating and thriving and surviving. This cat now weighs almost 20 pounds. He's this big white ball of fur, but he's wicked. He kills everything in the neighborhood. I mean, he goes after birds, lizards, snakes, little bunnies. This thing, rats. He has brought me everything in the neighborhood. This cat, I have had 4 different colors on him with bells, those that are escape free. Don't spend your money when you've got a wildcat like Captain. He's gone in the lake twice after ducks. Splash, splash, after ducks. He went after a great blue heron that hangs out on our dock because my grandson feeds him little fish that he catches. He went after him up onto the top of the deck roof after this blue heron. Well, Bill took off because he's like, I'm not fighting a crazy cat. The cat's getting a little older and a little slower. But just watching him this morning, just focusing on that little tiny runt that was so scrawny and poor and sickly, become this master of his environment and of himself. And he doesn't have to search the mountains and the canyons. He doesn't seek out the gurus and the gods. He sits proud at the foot of my yoga mat and watches and doesn't move, watches and takes it in. And then I noticed this beautiful tree that's out on a little island in the lake. And it changes with the months, not like the colors that we remember from up north, but it changes. It sways gently. It has been the home to these crazy big storks that build these 2 small nests, 2 small not 2 different ones, one little nest that they both cram themselves in. And they usually only have 1 baby, but this little baby sticks his neck out. I don't know how they don't go in the water that has gators in it. They don't. I watched with gratitude that tree that I've been blessed to see every morning, practically every morning for the last 35, 36 years. I heard the squirrels above me in their nest getting ready to awaken to the world. And I just looked around at the tomatoes in my garden, my little containers. I was so filled with gratitude, and something began to happen, to shift in me. That emptying out began to fill with this sweetness of joy. It brought me to my knees of humbleness, of just looking at the treasure in my life, no matter how dark it seems or what tomorrow may bring. God is in this. I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, but I don't have to. I can relax in the knowing that God's got me right here. God's got me. And the gifts of the heavens are constantly poured into us. And as we become still and observe, we will see it. We will hear it. We will know it. Tell me of your experiences of simply becoming still, of emptying, and of looking around your own surroundings. Send to me what you appreciated right now in this moment. I'm going to share with you just a beautiful little comment. St. Augustine wrote this, and it's so powerful and so deep. Just take it word for word and just take it in. And try for this day and this day alone to simply observe and see for yourself what is really going on, what is coming of all this, and what God is doing in the midst of all this. St. Augustine said, "Empty yourself so that you may be filled. Learn not to love so that you may learn how to love. Draw back so that you may be approached. Become still. Know that God is there and that you are loved beyond your wildest imagination." I love you. Have a fabulous Wednesday. Bye-bye.